It was win or go home, and unfortunately, the Barracuda are heading home. We'll break the game 4 down. We'll break down the season with a full cast of Barracuda fans. Right now, this is Barracuda After Dark on Teal Town USA. It is May 7th, 2025. The intro decided not to play. Well, that seems so appropriate on this night. Barracuda lose 3-1. They lose the series 3-1. We welcome you to this edition of Barracuda After Dark. This is your live and our interactive Barracuda post-game show. So we want to be part of the show, chat with us and fellow hockey fans all over the world and in Cuda country on the on the YouTube page or the app. You can always follow us on the socials. We always encourage you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can find everything at tealtownusa.com. And if you want to support the pod, hit us up at Venmo at Teal Town USA. And when we say we have a full cast, we have a full cast. It is Kevin Lacey, Ian Reed, and Jules. Good evening to the four of you. I'll see anything in the chat right now. Hank Vesuvius, well, it's time to shave the beard. Yeah.
My beard's so big, guys. It's starting so much,
That stubble was coming in nicely, Jules.
The stubble was so great. It was so great.
Yeah. Ian, I'll start with you because I know you're going to be on for a little bit. Your initial take on this season, my friend.
I don't know. I mean, I think overall, I think the season went well. I think even this playoff run went well. When you consider everything that the Barracuda went through, the injuries piling up, the Sharks basically breaking all their toys. You know what I mean? I think that all in all, I thought this was a decent playoff run. I think they overcame a lot. It just, but they couldn't overcome everything. This is a team that's missing its top scorer in Podorowski, who's the best scorer in the American Hockey League this year. Thomas Bordeleau really came on at the end of the season. I think missing him was hard. Colin White had kind of held things down as the season, as this playoff progressed, and I thought he was really good, and then they lose him. And then not to mention the guys who just didn't make it because the Sharks broke them. Like having a guy like Shakir Mukamadulin would have been a huge plus for this team. So I think all things considered, I mean, yeah, does it suck? Yeah, 100% it sucks. But I think all things considered, this team could have rolled over and died against Ontario, and we probably all would have shrugged and been like, yep, that's what happened. So I mean, to push this Colorado team to 4 games, and really they hung with Colorado the whole series. You know what I mean? All these games were close. There's overtimes. They hung this team. This is the best team in the Western Conference in the American Hockey League, and the Barracuda hung with them despite everything. So I think all in all, it sucks that this is the way it ended, but all in all, I think it was a pretty decent run for them. And again, it could have ended a lot sooner, and I don't think anyone would have said anything about it.
Fair enough. Jules, you've been keeping an eye on this team all year long, and tonight, your thoughts on this one coming to an end?
Yeah, I mean, not gonna lie, I called Puck Guy today, and I was like, I have a feeling the Cuda are gonna win. I'm sorry, I jinxed them, everyone. No, but look, listen, they're missing Podorowski, they're missing Bordeleau, and then they're missing White. Their center depth took a huge hit. And you could tell because they kept losing face-off draws. It feels like a lot of the time in hockey, face-offs are important, right? And when you lose Colin White, you promote Philip Beested up. He's a young guy who's, I don't know. It felt like they kept losing possessions. And in regards to the season, look, the Cuda made a step forward. I think Kevin retweeted something where a guy was they from going to the bottom of the Pacific to making the playoffs, and I know 7 teams make it. That's still a leap, right? That's still an improvement. I thought Musty and Chernyshov, with the limited time they got, kept getting better, and I thought that was a good sign. I thought Luka Cagnoni had a breakout year this year. I thought Yaroslav Askarov, for the most part, had a very solid season for the Cuda, right? And next year there should also be good, assuming Portorowski, Jimmy Schultz stay, right? So I think overall, with what they had to overcome, I'm not mad about this result. Yes, it sucks. Yes, we can all whine and complain about John McCarthy here, but at the end of the day, like, they still pushed the best Western team to 2 overtime games, and that other one goes the other way, and we're sitting here and it's a tied series. So, but if it, okay, never mind. I can't say that. I was about to say if it's and buts were candy and nuts, but yeah.
All right. Kevin, you've been there in person all season long, my friend. This is your baby. I mean, I know it's tough. We've been here many times with the Sharks. As Jules was saying, you retweeted something from a fellow Cuda fan. It's nice to have playoffs back after considering where this team was for the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Barracuda had the hot start to start the season, and then kind of fell off, and then found their game down the stretch, despite having the injuries. Up with every time the Sharks called up a Barracuda player, it felt like that player got injured in their first game, and they had to call the next man up and the next man up. I mean, I'm sure the injury totals, the infirmary is quite extensive here, not just with Bordeleau, Podorowski, Muhammadul, and White, and for what it's worth, Gannon Larocque. But I'm sure we're going to hear, Schultz with a nagging injury, and Thompson with a nagging injury, and this player and that player. Poole had the bubble. Vincent, of course. Dewar in and out. Cardwell in and out. So, and then Askarov having to leave game 3 was a big blow as well. But this team really hung on. I think our expectations for the season were met. So this is kind of the low point, because this is now the end of the season. It is over. We've reached the end of the line on this particular roster, but going into the season, we all were hoping that the team would be middle of the pack, which is a huge leap from 31st overall, where they were last year. And so they improved, I think it was 15 spots. And like you guys both said, Ian and Jules, before me, the Barracuda really hung in this series when they could have folded very, very easily. So I think that the Barracuda have a lot to be proud of themselves for, and the Sharks brass have a lot to be proud for with the way the Barracuda played this season.
Gotcha. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Let's get into game 4. It was a do or die. You were hoping for some random reason you get somebody like Shane or Curtis or Max saying, "Oh my God, I just saw Andrew Portorowski land at the Denver airport and taking an Uber up for game 4." Yeah, that didn't happen. Chernyshov does get into this lineup and makes an impact for it, but
How many shows in a row have we been calling for that one?
Yeah.
Too many, way too many.
Yeah. So I'll kind of combine the first 2 periods, since there were no scoring. I mean, combined total of 26-20 in favor of San Jose. But I thought the Cuda played a really good, sound game, Kevin, to keep it scoreless against, again, like we've said, one of the best teams in the league, let alone the best team in the West.
Yeah, for 2 periods, the Barracuda really showed some real strong defense, and I thought it was more of the same from last night, where the Barracuda played very well defensively, and the goaltending showed up. We asked last night for Yaroslav Askarov to put in a dynamite performance today, and I don't know if we got a dynamite performance, but I mean, shutout through 40 minutes, and then a fluke goal that I'm not really going to blame him for. Sometimes just those leaky ones happen. Really, I think if anything, it was the second goal that I thought he cheated over to the side too much on. That's the one that I'd go, darn it, But overall, up until the 48-minute mark or whatever it was of the game, the Barracuda had held the top line off the score sheet, which they haven't been able to do at all in this series. So yeah, through the first 40 minutes, guys, I thought the Barracuda had a real fine show, and I thought they really dictated the play tonight for the first two periods, which I haven't been able to say for much of this series. They found their way in game two and took control from Colorado in that one. But from the onset, I thought the Barracuda were the better team from minute 0 through minute 40.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think like it's hard, right? Because I think again when you talk about like the depletions in the roster and everything, like it wasn't like I thought the Barracuda did dictate pace, but it was a very slow pace. Like this was not
Sure.
this was not an exciting hockey game by any stretch of the
wasn't.
imagination. But given the what the Barracuda were working with, it's not like they could open it up. Like if opening the game up would only benefit Colorado. So I think it was a very deliberate game that they played, but it worked. I mean, it worked for two periods. It worked for for stretches of this series. I thought they made the most of what they had. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I thought for the start of the second, I think the shots were like, I have the game sheet here, but I think the shots were like 11-3 or something to start. Like, there was a good portion of the second where the Cuda were just controlling the pace. And then towards the end of the second, when they got that goal that got called back, or that wasn't a goal, actually, Askey stopped it. What am I talking about? It felt like they controlled the pace there, right? And then in the third, it just felt like Colorado figured it out a bit, and the Cuda just didn't adjust. So, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
Real quick with the goal that didn't happen. Yeah, that was the difference in the second period. Was we scored a goal that went in the net that got called back. They scored a goal that never went in the net. That got called back. So, booyah! We won that battle.
Yeah, and somebody had some, I think, to quote Randy Hahn, premature hornage. Was blowing up the horn, hitting the smoke signs, and doing the flashy light thingy, effect on the arena lights because it didn't go in. The netminder didn't go in, but good try on that. Definitely a lot of. We had a couple penalties in the first, but then it got a little rough early on in the second period. But when the Cuda did have a power play chance, Gang, and Ian, I'll go with you first here. You gotta bang in on one of these.
Yeah, again, like everyone's like the thing in the Discord was like, this is the number 1 ranked power play in the AHL. Well, again, it was when Thomas Bortolo and Paul Doralski were on it. It's not now. Like I do have some like questions like for about John McCarthy here, right? Because I think like, and I'll get back to your point in a second here. Sorry, Puck Guy, but like
You're good.
There's been like I have to question like some of these lineup decisions because like Van Rooiboy's got pulled out in game 3. Like the fourth line is like everyone gushes over how good that fourth line is, and it's like, nah, we'll split it up, right? And like I don't know, like this team again, I think that John McCarthy was hoping that he would just grind the Colorado Eagles to down and then win a tight scoring game, which I think is almost worked. But I do have questions because I think like you have guys that have shown something. Like I thought when Quentin Musty came in for the game that he came in, I thought he looked really good. I thought he had exactly the type of game you'd want him to have. Yeah, okay, he didn't get on the score sheet, but still. And then Chernyshov, I thought was great tonight, and he was the guy who I would have put in over Quentin Musty. If you could only have one, I would have put Chernyshov in. Like, I don't like is as much as like the power play struggled because the guys were missing. Like, I feel like they had guys that could have helped with that, but just weren't given permission to because they couldn't get into the lineup for reasons.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like J-Mac, I think It's unfortunate because part of me, and I'm not saying this, I think Ian, you touched on this, but part of me feels like J-Mac's just going to get let off the hook a bit just because of the sheer amount of injuries the Cuda had, and they made
Royce
the playoffs.
coached the
Yeah.
farm team for 17 million years. J-Mac's going to
Yeah.
coach it for another 17 million
Yeah,
years.
like part of me has that feeling. As much as we don't like his coaching decisions, and I thought Igor Chernyshov was most of the time when he was on the ice, something good was happening for the Cuda.
Yeah, and look at it. And I'll go back to what I said before, and people get mad at me in the chat. I don't really care. Like you have to. I know people are like, oh, these guys need to be in the lineup, and why aren't they taking X, Y guys out? But like, you also have to reward the guys that got you there, right? Like that matters. I know, and people in the chat are gonna get mad at me. I don't care, but that's the reality, man. Like you have to balance getting in new blood like that with rewarding the guys that got you to the dance.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, and it makes sense. Kev, you look like you're eager to say something, so I'll finish up. But it's like, yeah, you reward who got you there. Of course, the talent was coming with Musty and Chernyshov, and
and they're going to be big parts of this team next year.
Right.
Yeah. So is a Cam Lund,
Chernyshov's probably on the Sharks, but Quentin Musty, I think, is gonna. I think Quentin Musty is going to be a big part of this team going forward next year. So,
yeah.
So
Chernyshov can play with Misa on the Sharks next year. It's going to be great. Okay. Anyways, I'll shut up. Sorry.
Speaking of Chernyshov, let's talk about the goal that I thought I was like, there's no way we're looking at that as a distinct kicking motion. But it does go off. It does deflect off of his foot and in to make it 1-0 Cuda. Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. First pro goal?
Yeah.
Or did he have one in Calgary? Or he had an assist in
Calgary? Yeah. First pro goal.
First pro goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
no, he scored the KHL.
We would have. What?
He scored in the KHL.
First North American pro goal.
Thank you.
But yeah, he had not exactly how we would have envisioned it. It wasn't flying up the left wing and turning his body and taking a snipe to the far corner over the shoulder of Trent Miner or anything like that. I don't even know who shot the puck. Was it Philip Beested? Someone shot it from the left side and it bounced off Chernyshov's leg, is what it looked like to me, and went in, and it could not have been any less of a kicking motion. So I don't know why they needed a 45-second replay of that one. Maybe just to go, wow, who knew that the puck could hit someone with so little of movement, like the way it happened there. But nevertheless, good goal. Made it 1-0.
Can I address something in the chat here quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Dave's saying, like, but what did Ostachuk, Giles, Houle, and Dewar really get to the Here's the thing. Ostachuk gets into the lineup because he's a center, and they were desperately in need of a center. Giles was really good the entire playoffs. Giles was great.
Giles was amazing.
He was one of the Barracuda's better players in the playoffs. Houle, yeah, I agree. Donovan Houle, I mean, he did come up for Musty the one game. But neither of those two guys played like the whole series. So I think Ostachuk, yeah, I agree. He wasn't good, but he was a center, and they needed centers. Like Musty and Chernyshov aren't centers. That's it.
Yeah. I do wonder. Dewar was a healthy scratch supposedly tonight, and that I thought was a bit of an odd choice, given that he is an experienced forward. But I know he has been fighting. He had that real nice hot streak to start his tenure with the Barracuda, and that kind of fell off. But I don't know how he ended up in McCarthy's doghouse, but it sure seemed like that down the stretch, because it sounds like he was healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chernyshov's goal makes it 1-0 Barracuda, and that lasted as.
Hang on. Now I need to address something in the chat. Yes, we're not happy with Zach Ostapchuk, Logan. But I remember certain people, not among the four of us, on this very channel, who said Fabian Zetterlund must absolutely not be qualified. What a trash player he was his first year. what a joke of a Timo Meyer trade, blah, 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 blah. And now suddenly it's, man, we traded Fabian Zetterlund for a stop chuck. We also got a second round pick, mind you. So there's that. So let's temper that a little bit here. Yeah, a stop chuck
He's
was
21,
very
guys.
underwhelming, but hey, who knows? Maybe year 2, he's lights out. We'll find
I
out.
hope so.
Yeah. Because on the early onset, I can see why many are upset. You hope for the future. That's what this is going for. In the long run.
Never should have been with the Sharks. They never should have called him up. He should have been with the Barracuda the entire time, because coming back to the Barracuda from the Sharks, he looked like a desperate player who was not able to find his game
He was
at
fighting
all up
it.
there,
He was
and it
fighting.
carried over to the Barracuda here. So that was a poor decision by management, in my opinion. But again, hopefully after the summer, he'll mentally reset and be ready to go in September.
Yeah, and it's tough. I mean, you have all these changes that happen last minute. It's a trade deadline. Yes, it's you say, oh, it's you got to treat it like a business. You're changing. You're changing somebody's lives and livelihood for a bit, and on guys who are developing, that's a little bit of a shakeup. It can throw you off a little bit, but that's the thing. You're gonna have to shake it off to be the player that you can be down the road. So 1-1 was a score when Chase Bradley scored his first of the playoffs. And then, as much as we were complimenting Giles about it, that was a rough penalty to take with about 6:51 left in the third period. That does set up Fellhaber's third goal of the playoffs that the Eagles don't look back on.
Yeah.
And special teams played a huge role in this series, guys.
I mean, the Cuda went I think they got one power play goal this series, maybe 2. I didn't watch the third.
They didn't score. I don't think they scored a 5-on-5 goal this whole series.
Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, part of me, listen, you score, I get one more on the power play in this game, and it's a different game, right? The power play, I know you're missing Potsy, I know you're missing Boardsy, but to a certain extent, it has to click. You can't go, you can't have 5 power plays and only score on 1 or 2. You're getting so many opportunities throughout the series. The games could have went so differently. I'm not saying you should score. I'm not saying you have to score on the power play, but you score in the power play, this is a completely different series, right? So I don't know. It's frustrating. I get it.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of those power plays was 2 seconds, so I'll give them that. But still 0 for 4. 0 for 4, you don't get many power plays, especially the way this series has gone. The Barracuda certainly have not gotten many power plays, and they needed to be able to capitalize on those moments. And for the most part, their power plays tonight, they weren't even the ones that had possession. And so that's really what it comes down to, is they look completely lost on their power play tonight, and yeah, no answer there.
Yep. Pauline would add an empty netter with about 55 seconds left, and that would be finishing off the Cuda season as they lose 3-1 to the Colorado Eagles. As the Eagles win the series by the same amount, 3-1. Gang, let's talk about Yaroslav Askarov, who left in the overtime last night in Game 3. Comes back and puts up a 29 save performance. Ian, I'll go with you first. What did you think of Askarov tonight and through the playoffs? And
the Askarov's a big part of the reason that we're even talking about a Game 4 in Colorado, right? I don't think without Askarov, I think this team is dead in round 1, because the thing with them is they couldn't score. So the only way you can win games is you got to grind it out and keep the puck out of your net, which Askarov, I think, gave them a chance to win every game they played. I think he was great. It'll be interesting to see how they do next year, because I think we all agree that next year Askarov is not going to be on this team.
So let's get to some of the comments coming from the locker room. AJ, thank you very much for getting these. Appreciate it. From Patrick Giles, great series. We have a tough group in here, battled the whole way. It's looking good for next year. We have a lot of resiliency, and we were in it till the end. And honestly, gang, considering the injuries and considering the lack of center depth and the lack of goal scoring you're missing from Bordelot, Podorelski, and like Ian said, no goals, 5-on-5. They hung in it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, continuing with Giles, Askey is an awesome guy, awesome in the room. He's a warrior, and a big reason why we won in the first round. And yeah, I mean, he was phenomenal against Ontario. Maybe a hiccup in game one, but other than that, I mean, what was it? I think I saw it in the chat. 9 goals allowed in 6 games. You'll love to see it.
Yeah, I think again, like they did good. I think Askarov was good. He was good. I don't know what else. Like maybe he didn't steal enough games, but it's, when you're not scoring, there's only so much you can do unless you want Askarov to start scoring goals too.
Yeah, where was the guy everyone seems to love for reasons I can't understand, Daniil Gushin? Where were his goals tonight? He got that one bounce off Chris Wagner in overtime of game 2, but
yeah,
I really didn't notice Daniil Gushin too much tonight at all in the offensive. And I know he was on the third line with Scott Sabourin and Zach Kostopchuk. And actually, I thought Daniil Gushin did a pretty good job of on his forecheck. So I would certainly give him that. But did he even have any shots tonight?
Give me a second. Let me go find out.
You look.
I had it up.
He had 3 shots tonight.
Yeah, he had a few shots. Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting though, because I think that's the one thing that they're talking about. Like, oh, look, we're set up pretty good for next year. But like right now, there's rumors that Podorelski is going to go to the KHL next season. Now he is under contract next year, but if he goes to the Sharks and is like, hey, they offered me this huge bag of money in the KHL, and you're paying me, whatever he gets paid. I think it's $800,000 or whatever. They'll probably let him out of his contract to go. Pavel Regenda, who I think was one of the Barracuda's best players, I think he's a Group 6 UFA because he hasn't played enough games. So he's a UFA. So it's not like you can bring him back, but he could also sign with another team. Thomas Bordelot is an RFA with arbitration rights. Daniil Gushin does not have arbitration rights, but he is also an RFA. So it's going to be interesting to see which faces come back, because obviously also, again, like you got a guy like Chernyshov. I think Chernyshov's on the Sharks next year, but maybe he's not. Maybe he's on the Barracuda. Quentin Musty's probably on the Barracuda, at least to start. Maybe he works his way up. So, I mean, you also have to start making room for other guys to come in too. So it's going to be interesting to see like who comes back next year from this year's group. And again, it's going to be the goaltending is going to probably be Gabe Carrier. Maybe Gabe Carey. He's not even signed next year either. So who knows? I don't.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting that NHL deal killed his 2-year AHL
Correct.
deal. I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah. So he's he's not. So there's no. Both him and Georgi Romanov don't have contracts for next season. They did sign the guy from Denver. I can't remember Matt Davis. So there is Matt Davis, but who is, he's, again, this is going to be a guy getting his first taste of pro hockey. So you probably want someone to play with him. So we'll see, if Gabe Carrier comes back or if they look somewhere else, but this team could look very different next year.
The Cuda will also probably be adding a guy like Casper Haltnen. Next
year.
Yeah,
Casper Haltnen. Yeah. There's another name. Yeah.
Right now I've got in the top 6, with Chernyshov pending with being on the Sharks, Podorowski pending coming back, Bordeleau pending coming back. But as far as contracted players go, I've got a top 6 of Musty, Podorowski, Cardwell, Ostapchuk, Bordeleau, and Haltonen. And that should be pretty darn good.
Indeed.
That's yeah, that's good.
That's
That means Bisha is still a third line center on this team.
Yeah,
That
that's pretty solid.
that'll sell some tickets and get butts and seats for sure.
Yeah, come watch, B said as our third line center.
That slides Patrick Giles back to 4C again.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Let's continue on with the post-game quotes. This one from Captain Jimmy Schultz. They were a little better on special teams tonight. Oh, little. Sorry. And it seemed like they had the hot hand. They got the bounces, and they went in our net. It's a step in the right direction for the young guys that have been here for a couple of seasons. But the positive is that we battled every game, and we're building this organization. I mean, you gotta love hearing that the build and like Jimmy's wanting to be around. Having Potsy would have been huge. We thought we would have gotten him back on Sunday if we'd won this game. There was no doubt the injured guys would have been back. Potsy was our MVP, and kind of a hint or kudos here from Schultz saying Potsy deserves to be in the NHL. Like letter of recommendation much, right, gang? He would continue on to say, we're building something exciting here, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of it. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time in, 3-4 years that Jimmy Schultz not going to the Calder Cup final?
I was going to say it's the first time in 3-4 years that we had a veteran leader who talked about the excitement for the future of this club.
Yeah.
That wasn't like out now.
Then to pull the Denny Lemieux from Slapshot and say, "Trade me right now," yeah. Speaking of goaltenders, Askarov to the media, it's playoffs. No one cares how you feel. You just want to find a way to win. I got
This guy's gonna come back with a vengeance next year.
I got some NHL and AHL games. I got some experience. It was a good season. I'm looking forward to next season and have a great camp. I'm so excited. You can't control injuries. It is what it is.
Can I say something?
Go for it.
What I love about these now, I don't know if these players are just saying what they should quote unquote be saying, as Buddy Hield called it last night, 2 fingers. But for those of you who know. But it just sounds like there's a lot of excitement in that room right now, despite what's happening, and everyone's just excited for next year, right? Because there is stuff to be excited for with this team, right? We can all kind of agree on that collectively. I think I'm not saying anything too crazy. But yeah, it's nice to hear some excitement around the Cuda and not just, like Ian said, how do I find my way out the door as quickly as possible in the next 3 months, right? And hearing Askey sounding excited, hearing Schultz wanting to come back, because I believe he's a UFA. Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe he's a
Jimmy
UFA.
Schultz is a UFA.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm not losing my mind. Yeah, so it's nice to see that for a change.
Yeah. So let's move on to Coach John McCarthy. I'm
Everyone's
proud of
favorite.
I'm proud of the group. The difference was the late PK. I thought this might have been our best game of the series. Chernyshov is a really exciting player to watch. I liked what I saw.
Only you would have saw it sooner.
From the leadership on down, I'm proud of the group. I'm not satisfied, but it is a positive step to get the younger guys this experience. I mean, it's always nice to have some playoff experience. Just ask Chernyshov and Musty. But he definitely says, definitely miss Potsy. And the last one I have so far, every year I'm learning more and more as a coach.
Yeah, we'll leave that there. We'll leave that there, right, boys?
It's hard to. I mean, again, it's. I don't want to be super critical because I do think we can't just like get mad at them every time something goes wrong, and then if they do go on a run like they went on, and give them absolutely zero credit for it. Like, so I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to be super critical, but like, I do wish that they would look to someone better.
Is
But
his
they're not going
contract
to.
up or no?
Yes.
Okay, so his
Or
contract
live.
is up.
But I don't know how. Like, I don't know. Maybe they do look and they go whatever. But I can't imagine after
Well, I
what
feel
they've
like an
done that
extension.
he doesn't get an extension.
Okay, but hear me out. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here for my own sanity also. His contract is up after this year, right? Or this season was the end of it. So if his contract is up after this season, I feel like an extension would have already happened earlier, because typically you don't just leave a loose goose hanging like that, if that makes sense. But I could be wrong. I could just be hopium right now. But anyways.
Loose goose, lame duck. I mean, you can look at a lot of those. It'll be interesting to see, and maybe because of what this team had the potential to be this year, maybe they're waiting on it. So
We'll see. If his contract is up, I'm think it's time to just say, hey, you're great for development, or whatever. If you don't agree with that, you don't agree with that. I don't really care. Why don't you go back to being a dev coach, and we can hire a guy like Bilesma who, knows Jimmy Schultz and whatever, and Porterowski, and has coached them before, and maybe they bring a guy like that, and that's kind of the guy I want. Maybe the Cuda to bring in is, we'll see.
okay, all right. So the Barracuda season, I should say, comes to an end with the Colorado Eagles advancing to take on either Abbotsford or Coachella Valley in the Pacific Division Finals.
Yeah, that's the only series that's like still playing, right? Or Milwaukee, and that's it. Milwaukee, Rockford, and that one.
I want to say yes. I know there were a couple of games tonight in the in their North Division final is set. Rochester against Laval. Colorado has already punched their ticket to the Pacific Division Finals. Atlantic Division semifinals. Lehigh Valley is up 2-1 on Hershey.
That's shocking. Yeah, you're right. Actually, there's only 3 series that are over out of 8, but that Lehigh Valley over Hershey is shocking.
Atlantic Division, again, Charlotte up 2-1 on Providence. As we said, Laval is advanced. They took down Cleveland 3-1. Rochester is up or 1-3-0 against Syracuse. Rockford up 2-1 on Milwaukee. Grand Rapids are down 0-2 to the Texas Stars. And
Texas is who I have advancing out of the West.
Yeah, Texas is really good.
They might be good. All right. So now the off-season begins, I guess you could say. It was a fun run. I think we can be quite honest. It was nice to see TexU get a couple of home games to really get that crowd pumping. Kevin can attest many times, especially game 2, that this place was.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and I look forward to hopefully a fuller barn for regular season games as well.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, listen, we got playoff hockey in San Jose, which we didn't have since what, 2019.
2019.
So it's always fun to get playoff hockey, and that game, that at least the game that I went to, I know they lost, but it was really fun. So, and not just because of the tequila.
Hi. Jules.
Hey, I'm trying to cheer everyone up here.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we'll put a bow on this one for tonight in case you missed anything or you want to watch this again. We appreciate if you did. You can check us out on tealtownusa.com, or you can get the audio version wherever you get your podcast. The audio version will be up in a little bit later this evening. If you want to watch this again, please hit that like button on your way out the door. It really does help us out, and it's free. So thank you. Of course, if you like our content, please hit that subscribe button on the way out. And the notification bell will notify you when news breaks during the offseason. We will be here, not the least of which we have draft coverage coming up within the next month or so. And I think we will do some Stanley Cup After Darks. We'll see how that goes.
We will.
So on that note, let's wrap things up, my friends. Jules, I'll start with you.
Scary. No, look, overall, I thought this was a really solid season for the Cuda. Losing your MVP right before playoffs it's hard. Losing your number one center, losing the guy who, I think meant a lot to this team was hard going into playoffs. And look, I'm proud of them. We saw glimpses of the future. Colin Graf made huge leaps and steps. That wasn't English. Igor Chernyshov made huge improve. I thought had a really good game today, and overall, he's going to be a really good player for the Sharks. So it's nice to see the Cuda make the playoffs. It's nice to have playoffs back in San Jose. And, next year now, the hope is, don't just make the playoffs, but, maybe be a second seed, be a 1 seed. So we'll see what happens. And maybe look for another coach.
Oh, jeez. All right. Ian, your final thoughts before you go to sleep.
Yeah, I think all things considered, it was a successful season for the San Jose Barracuda. I'm happy with the progress some guys made. Again, I think a guy like Luca Cagnoni had such a great season. Colin Graf went up and down a lot, but he was good in both places. I'm excited for what the future holds for this team, but I'm also interested to see kind of who is going to make up this team and who's going to kind of pick up the torch next year to be next year's iteration of the Barracuda. But I think all things considered, I think it was a successful season, which is something that we have not been able to say about a Barracuda season for quite a long time. So I'm glad that the team finally decided they care about the Barracuda. I'm glad that they went out and found the veteran guys to come and help these kids along instead of just being like kids. And then when they get injured, it's just an ECHL team playing in the AHL. So I'm happy the way the franchise treated the Barracuda this year. I'm hoping that they continue to treat the Barracuda this well. And I'm looking forward to next season and seeing what, not only who from this team is going to be, looking for jobs on the Sharks next year, but I'm also looking to see who's gonna carry the torch for the Barracuda as well.
Yeah, indeed. Kevin, I'll let you have the final word. That's your again, I say it's your baby, kind of, but your thoughts on your Cuda as we get out of here.
First off, I wanted to kind of follow up on something from last night's show that was asked regarding emergency goalies, emergency backup goalie. It's why I've looked a little distracted the last 5 or 10 minutes. I've been trying to find out information. I've kind of pieced a couple of things together in the AHL rulebook and the NHL rulebook, because the AHL rulebook doesn't say anything about it. It basically just says the third goalie must not be a member of the must not be a skater in the lineup of 18 skaters, 2 goalies that the coach submits. But I'm like, that doesn't say anything about emergency backup. But I did see that the playoff and regular season rules are the same in the AHL. So there's no change for playoffs. And then in the NHL rule book, it does state specifically that the e-bug may not be a paid team employee. And thinking about how the e-bug can dress for either team, that does make sense. So I'm going to go ahead and say Matt Davis could not have been an e-bug last night, even though he was there. Anyway, getting to my final thought, I'm kind of regurgitating what I said last night, and Phil in the chat kind of says the same thing here about how most of the playoffs, the Barracuda were in a 1-goal situation or tie games throughout almost the entirety of the playoffs there. So, sure, the Barracuda lost tonight. This is a long-term game, a long-term league here. So, sure, they lost tonight, but who's to say that next season, next year's playoffs, some of these players who will return can't build off of that. And if they're put in this same predicament, being down 2-1 in a series or 3-2 in a series, who say they don't draw from what they learned tonight and what they learned about this playoff run going forward in their careers. Other than that, everything that Ian and Joel said, spot on. So thank you for having me. It was a wonderful season, and thank you all for being a part of this wild ride, riding the wave.
Thank you, Kevin. As for me,
And Bobby Bones in the morning.
Yes. Fucking Bobby
oh my
Bones.
God. We won't get that out of our heads. Maybe we'll get out of it for the next 5 months or so. Huge thank you to this entire crew here, starting, with the three that I'm hosting with here, bringing their Barracuda knowledge. It's not easy covering two teams at once at times, so it's very appreciative of that. AJ, I know you're in the chat here and bringing the quotes. I really appreciate you here as well. Our whole crew, thank you very much for doing what you've been doing. To our supporters, thank you so much for hanging in there. I mean, it is the Calder Cup playoffs, so I know a lot of people are thinking Stanley or bust, and I think I asked back in November, would you be okay if the Cuda won the Calder before the Sharks won Stanley? And I think it was like an overwhelming 86% of you said, do not care. We want to win something. We got a little bit of a tease of that, and looking forward to seeing what the Cuda can do next season. Definitely going to be looking different. We'll see how things come around, but it should be fun for both the Sharks and the Cuda, and maybe even with some more victories in the middle for that. So I am going to address this in the chat. Hank Vesuvius, I don't know what on earth or how you saw my calves. Pikeye's final thoughts need to include his killer calves regimen. Stairs at work, skating. It does do that, but okay. But on that
I
All
know.
note,
right, we're
Nothing.
officially
Teal
in
Town
off-season
USA.
mode now.
yeah, we are now in officially off-season mode. So thank you very much for watching. Click like, click subscribe, tell all your friends. We'll be back with you, I guess Sunday for Sunday Shark Bites, where we'll talk about a boatload of things, not the least of which is Miko ranting in AI, or that mammoth logo. I really dig it, but we'll get into all that on Sunday. Or maybe Monday, because it is Mom's Day. So all the hockey moms out there, we love you, appreciate you. We will be back with you in the very near future. Until then, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Teal does bite back. We just have to wait till October. Have a great night, everyone.